Alright everyone, you remember last year when the CIA was reporting that Russians were offering bounties on US troops because Trump was being brazen and appeasing Vladimir Putin and they figured they could get away with everything? Well, of course it turns out that story was complete and total bullshit. There was never any actual evidence or inside chatter about this happening, and essentially it's funny. The mainstream media, during the election of course, ran with this story and ran it into the ground, and the Democrats seized upon it and said, well, we must change leadership, Putin is doing crazy shit, and Trump refuses to condemn him and isn't responding appropriately. And the idea was that Trump was, a Russian asset. It goes along with the long-term big lie, which never was true to begin with. There is no evidence of Russian collusion with the Trump campaign. The involvement in the 2016 election regarding Russia was a troll farm, which bought some Facebook ads and made some bot accounts. Not only does every state do this in every single election, every state with enough resources, it's not meaningful. By and large, such attacks are more of a nuisance than anything else. We know that the Russians attempt to influence the US political system. I am hesitant to believe that it moves the meter at all. Chinese influence definitely is quite large. And if Russia wanted to influence the US, they'd ask the Chinese to help, because the Chinese have much more money, especially in our political system through slush funds and multinational corporations. There are a lot more corporations that are bilateral between the Western world and China than the Western world and Russia, just saying. They would ask them for help, and also they have more manpower. They have millions of tech-literate people. They have the Great Firewall and the Great Cannon, which can literally weaponize all of the processing power in China's intranet and black out US servers almost instantaneously. The Russians can't do this. That being said, the legacy media is refusing to report the sad reality that they were completely hoodwinked by this story. They're refusing to notify their readers and their viewers of one another's compliance and complacency with regards to disinfo. It's funny because we also, at the same time, not only MSM, but big tech is, we need to fight disinfo, we need to do more about this, we need to make sure people have proper information. This is essentially what I've talked about, which is a lie by omission. You've told a story, which you've now confirmed was not true. There was no such Russian ploy to kill US troops on bounty. The story never even made sense, because it would be absolutely ludicrous for the Russians to do that. It literally wouldn't make any sense whatsoever. If anything, for the Russians, it would exacerbate things over here and make it more likely that US troops would surge back into a region that they were trying to do operations in to defend one of their key allies. It would be topsy-turvy. It would be literally the opposite of common sense. If anything, they probably paid for bounties on ISIS members to try to clean them off the table. I think that the Biden admin and the Democrats at large in our MSM, the complacent and compliant MSM state media that exists now within the United States, I think they were confusing U.S. troops with maybe FSA members or something. Did you mean like rebels that we trained and armed, that Obama gave all sorts of lethal aid to? I always thought that was funny that Obama would give rockets to Islamofascists while trying to keep expanded magazines out of the hands of normal law-abiding gun owners in the United States. I always thought that was an interesting thing. But the fact is, they're not reporting on their own fucked up reporting. I mean, I don't question why, of course. Then admitting that you're wrong generally stinks anyway. But when the legacy media is less and less trusted by people, admitting to your lie is probably a strategic blunder. It makes more sense to just keep your lemming fans in the dark about the fact that it even was a thing, and not admit to it. Now, of course, people who watch independent media, if they're watching my analysis, if they're watching like fucking InfoWars or something, they know that this happened. But the thing is, supposedly, we're just a bunch of extremists and kooks. Soccer Mom America persists in watching CNN even after they're revealed to openly be engaging in propaganda and admitting to it. Very interesting times. I think O'Keefe is suing them right now, actually. Good luck to him. Keep in mind, of course, they have the U.S. political system on their side. Persecution of independent voices is definitely deepening. I found this funny because this is a major story. It was all over the news, and it definitely affected the election. Keep in mind, the election was being affected by multiple things. You had the lockdown, which caused an economic downturn, which was blamed on Trump, which makes no sense since the continued lockdowns, by and large, were carried forth by blue state governors with their executive orders and didn't really involve Trump. Of course, the federal government can make advice, it can free up money, It can form committees and attempt to pass legislation, but by and large, that was a state-level response. The state-level response completely failed. DeSantis is now practically prepping for a presidential campaign on that one platform. Probably will be successful if he chooses to run and Trump doesn't. But meanwhile, this was the other big thing. CIA confirms that the Russians are killing U.S. troops and Trump is sitting by and doing nothing. Well, he didn't respond because it didn't happen. You can't sit there and badmouth Vladimir Putin for something he hasn't actually done and cause a major diplomatic crisis. It's funny to see Biden slapping more sanctions on Russia. Nobody cares. Vladimir Putin is not going to be affected by more sanctions. Meanwhile, you've got morons going on TV talking about the need to potential regime change in Iran. Are you people fucking crazy? I think that they are. Now, that sword rattling won't become a meaningful policy, but just the fact that the lamestream legacy media persists in open, transparent propaganda basically has become a state media attaché for Biden. It should piss people off, number one, and worry them, definitely, number two. Instead, you see a bunch of glazed fluoride faces most of the time. That's about all. Peace out.